If an orc big mech gets too big for his own boots, he will soon find himself at the business end of a very large gun, probably one that he built for his boss a couple of weeks earlier. In such circumstances, most wise big mechs will choose exile. Such freebooter big mechs either wind up hiring out their skills to a new tribe, or build their very own warband filled with their own clanking and roaring walkers, seething mobs of ludas and burna boys, and ramshackled masses of wagons and artillery. But the big mech still needs to protect himself, and to accomplish this, he discovers a recipe buried deep within his brutish DNA. It is a design to construct a Shokk attack gun, one of the deadliest and most innovative orc weapons in the entire galaxy. And with that said, I want to welcome you guys back to another 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Big Mech and his Shokk attack gun. If you guys are new to the channel, we post Warhammer 40k lore videos every single day. I try to combine the lore with the actual hobby. Today's video, I'm going to be showcasing my personal Big Mech with a Shokk attack gun and another Big Mech that I use in my warbands. What I'm trying to do is get all of you lore enthusiasts that read the books and play the video game and want to learn about the universe and have you guys play the game. Or not even necessarily play the game, but just collect the minis because it's a lot of fun to even have on your display case. Once you learn the lore, it's awesome to have the miniatures like in your face, like actual tangible pieces of the lore. So if you guys have suggestions for any topics, let me know what it is in the comment section below. If you guys have questions, ask away and I'll try to answer it again in the comment section, or I'll try to create a video for you guys. And if you guys enjoy these videos, consider hitting the like button, sharing with your friends, and commenting down in the comment section below. We also have a Patreon. Now, in the beginning of this, I'm going to explain what a mech is in the orc world or in the orc culture. If you've already seen the mech video, it's really just the front part of it, so I'll put a little annotation right here. You can skip to that part if you just want to get to the Big Mech and the Shokk attack gun. If not, just watch the entire thing all the way and relearn or learn about the mech and the Big Mech and all that good stuff. So with all that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Big Mech and the Shokk attack gun. Although the majority of the orc race appears to be brutal and instinctive in nature, the reality is that the average orc possesses a low level of cunning, specifically designed to make them extremely deadly in combat. Orcs are not dumb. Each and every greenskin has a grasp of rudimentary technology at an instinctual level, meaning that just like a human baby is born with a natural ability to breathe, the average orc knows how to maintain a shooter or even a rocket pack as soon as it emerges from its spore sac. This incredible ability was hard-coded into the orc's genetic makeup by the Old Ones who created the orcs, although they called them the Krork. This basic mechanical aptitude possessed by the greenskins is one of the many reasons why the species has been so successful on countless battlefields. The greenskins are adaptable and mobile like no other race. While humans take years to educate their soldiers, an orc boy is fully capable of waging war within minutes. To make the orcs even more frightfully efficient warmongers, there exists a type of orc within the greenskin ranks that possesses a stronger understanding of the building blocks of technology. These mechanically inclined orcs are commonly known as mech boys, sometimes referred to as mechaniacs or simply mechs. These strange orcs are blessed with a greater understanding of how to modify elaborate machinery, and also an instinctive willingness to put their skills to use, regardless of how risky the modifications will be. Mechs will gladly remove a lock to make a shooter more deadlier, or overcharge an engine in order to make it go faster. But both conversions have the potential to kill the mech or even the user, but to this odd boy, the thrill of learning something new outweighs the risk. Along with their mechanical and engineering prowess, mech boys also have a knack for assessing the nature, the use, and the value of a given piece of scrap or hardware at a glance. They have been known to break apart abandoned yet functioning vehicles or weapons in order to get the part of the machine that can be used to make things deadlier. Thanks to this keen eye, they excel at using these salvaged and recycled materials to create the improbable devices clamored over by the boys, knobs, and war bosses alike. One of the most common sights after a devastating battle is an orc mech accompanied by a retinue of a dozen or so Gretchen looting the battlefield, collecting enemy weapons as well as tearing down the foe's wrecked vehicles and salvaging the good bits. This is obviously a dangerous task, not just because the mech is all alone in the battlefield, but much of the debris is in the brink of exploding or in the process of leaking out toxic or radioactive chemicals. All of these things are of no concern to the mech boys, as he is focused on bringing these items back to his mech shop. Orc mech boys always have a designated area of work within the greenskin settlements. The wisest orcs stay away from these areas, as explosions and deadly projectiles are common. But that's not to say that an orc mech is unpopular within the orc tribe. A mech boy that has earned the reputation of building shootier shootas or faster bikes will eventually open up a mech shop where his lethal inventions may be purchased for teeth, the common orc currency. The sounds of sawing, hammering, and the occasional explosion will be heard coming from the mech shop. A mech's tools are almost as terrifying as the weapons he creates. They possess massive spanners, rivet guns, welders, cutting torches, hammers, and crude saws. Each one fits the callous hands of their creator and withstands its constant use and abuse. In their motor pools, workshops, and foundries, mechs gleefully toil away in a cloud of cigar smoke, oil mist, exhaust fumes, and fine metal dust, attended to by small armies of Gretchen servants, tasked with fetching tools, holding parts, and applying lubrication and adhesive. In these clamorous and noisome environments, mech boys and their assistants turn out the countless shoota, slugga, stick bombs, bits of armor, and other war gear required to feed the ravenous orc war machine. Mech boys are also driven by a competitive nature of creation. They are constantly tinkering with and customizing their war gear to make their creations twice as deadly as the other mech boys. When these demented minds compete with each other, the result is some of the most terrifying and dangerous war machines that the galaxy has ever seen. Many of these competitions have broken out to an all-out war, where the mechs supply their factions with destructive gear and send them out to the rival mech shops to wreak havoc. As more and more orcs hear about the fight, they flock to the mech shops, searching for a proper war. These tribal civil wars will continue until one faction is utterly eliminated, or the rival mech is killed, oftentimes by his own creation. There have been tales of mechs succumbing to their own creative hubris and fabricating a weapon so volatile it explodes right in their face. Another one of these stories is how a mech entombed his Gretchen servants inside the chassis of Killikans, only to have the army of walkers turn on the abusive mech and tear him apart limb from limb. Sadly, because of this infighting, the majority of new orc technology will never be seen by the Imperium or any other race of the galaxy. Instead, the creative genius of a mech will always be lost amongst the constant clashing between rival clans. In this way, the obsession with the mechanical has prevented many orc walls from forming. The orc technology that has been captured in battle and examined by the Adeptus Mechanicus defies all description and classification. Guided by each individual mech boy's particular vision, no two pieces of orc equipment are alike. They show no signs of standardization or mass production, and vary so widely in their construction, design, and makeup as to make each piece of equipment essentially unique. As far as any of the learned magos of the priesthood of Mars can determine, the only commonality amongst the orc technology is that every shoota, truck, lava, and suit of mega armor seems to be nothing more than a random collection of scrap parts, gubbins, and metal plates patched together in a random fashion that simply should not function as advanced technology. And yet somehow the orcs' ramshackle vehicles run. Their terrifyingly crude flyers stay in the air despite lacking any kind of aerodynamic qualities, and their weapons fire shattering bursts of slugs or disgorge gouts of flame, plasma, or other types of energy, despite being seemingly nothing more than a collection of flammable junk. Because of these absurd qualities of orc technology, the mech boys are a crucial part of any proper war. An orc mech is one of those odd boys that will always find a place within an orc clan or tribe. Their position within the hierarchy of orc society is also very unique. While mechs still follow the traditional values of might makes right, for many mech boys, the value of their skills outweighs their prowess on the battlefield. This doesn't mean that an orc mech is weak compared to other orcs. Mech boys have to be tough in order to secure their creations. If a loudmouth orc enters a mech shop thinking he can steal the best weapon, he will more than likely get a buzzsaw to the throat or be zapped to dust by a mech's custom Mega Blaster. However, every now and then a slightly cunning orc knob or boss will realize that it's better to protect the mech from other orcs and allow him to keep creating deadlier weapons for the clan rather than stomping his throat for one measly custom shooter. This is why mech boys, or even whole teams of mechs, fall under the protection of a war boss and accompany them into battle, making sure to repair any broken pieces from their warlord's favorite battle wagon, while simultaneously profiting from the best loot after the boss has had his fun. Teams of mech boys have always been reported fighting alongside the deadliest orc wars. A wise orc warlord will always have his odd boys creating terrifying vehicles, artillery pieces, and weapons common to an orc army. Mech boys are also in charge of securing resource lines and tapping into stolen energy grids as the green tide stomps across a planet. Mechs will often improve resource extractions for most worlds, as they know exactly what to tear down in order to drill for more oil or novocharge a power plant. Unfortunately for the world, the fuel will most likely go to killing the previous inhabitants, and since the orcs care little about protecting the environment, the ecosystem will soon collapse. At some point, every mech boy will get tired of following orders and test the war boss's mind. That war boss that can't put a mech boy in place with a proper beating will give rise to a big mech. These big mechs secure their place as new bosses after striking down any knob still loyal to the old regime. Like all other orcs, a big mech will get much bigger and stronger than a normal boy, and will boss around a retinue of not only Gretchen, but lower-ranking mech boys. These teams of mechs will build bigger and shootier technology, like Gorkanauts and Morkanauts, as well as the lethal Stompas. They will either lead their own walls, or sell their skills to other clans. Orc speed freaks are always willing to hire a big mech who promises to make faster, smoke-belching contraptions. The Evil Sun's clan always has at least a couple of mech tribes to satisfy their need for speed. Members of the Bad Moon clan will always toss their teeth towards a wandering band of mechs in exchange for snazzier guns. And the Dead Skull clans always welcome these traveling mechs, selling their latest stolen loot. Every single interaction will result in conflict for the big mech, but if he's tough enough, eventually the big mech will rally enough orcs from different clans under his banner. These mechs are known as mech bosses, and instead of leading a team of mechs into battle, they will launch entire earth-breaking walls. These mech boss armies will look very similar to regular orc walls. That is until the boss's personal retinue of mega-armored knobs, death dreads, and cyborg orcs tear through the battlefield. The mech guns that accompany a mech boss can even rival the firepower of the Tau Empire, because half the time they're stolen from the Tau Fire Caste. And then there's the mech boss himself, which is usually a towering green skin covered in armor plating and showing off his latest inventions, augmented with kill saws, power claws, shock attack guns, custom force fields, and so much more. These monstrosities even shadow the mega dreads on the battlefield. The most infamous of all the mech boy weapons is the shock attack gun, a bizarre device capable of opening a hole in the very fabric of space-time. This awesome power is used not to advance science or to revolutionize travel, but to fire warp-crazed snotlings into the enemy. This strange creation is a great example of how deeply the mech's affinity for technology runs, but also how rubbish they are at using it for anything other than short-sighted destruction. The shock attack gun works by projecting a narrow force field tunnel through a small portion of the warp. How it manages this is a mystery to anyone other than its creator, but the destructive potential of such a technological monster is considerable. The entrance to this tunnel opens up at the front of the gun, and the exit point is created wherever the operator aims it. It is possible, in fact encouraged, for living creatures to travel down the tunnel and leave at the exit point. Unfortunately, it is fairly common for the complex device to fail, resulting in the messy death of those inside as the field implodes. Even if the field does maintain its integrity, the journey through the tunnel is extremely disturbing, for those within are surrounded on all sides by the horrific demonic creatures of the living warp. Orcs are not exactly afraid of demonic creatures, but find them unnatural in the nastiest possible way. Consequently, no orc in his right mind would go into the tunnel created by a shock attack gun. Gretchen, being brighter than the orcs and having a keen sense of personal safety, tend to disappear whenever the disturbing whine of a shock attack gun pierces the air. Snotlings, however, possess only an animal level of intelligence and aren't frightened of anything until it's too late. Along with the squigs, these snotlings are gathered up by the mech's operator and fired through the warp. During the journey, they are driven out of their tiny minds, and by the time they exit the hole, they are fighting like crazy to escape. As the mech does his best to place the exit hole in the exact location of the enemy soldiers, the warp-crazed snotlings emerge not so much into the ranks of the foe, but inside the foes themselves. The nightmarish journey through the twisted seas of unreality drives the snotlings into a frenzy, and they emerge scrambling, clawing, biting, and defecating uncontrollably, sometimes inside the enemy's armor. This can cause havoc in an enemy vehicle and catastrophic trauma to the enemy troops, making the shock attack gun one of the deadliest weapons in the orc arsenal. Now that we know the lore to the big mechs and the shock attack gun, I want to showcase my big mech with the shock attack gun and my big mech with the force field. But before I do that, I want to read off some really cool stats of the old 5th edition shock attack gun. I read this off of the 5th edition Ork Codex, and back then in 5th edition, things were way more random than they are now. It was annoying when like things would go wrong, but it was also kind of fun because it kind of reminded you that this is just a game, and the point of this game is just to see orcs die or your enemy die and stuff like that. But with the shock attack gun, what you would do is you would roll to hit, and then you would roll to calculate your strength. And you would either take, if you rolled doubles, you had something special happen. So if it was double ones, the shock attack gun would explode, and you would get D6. Or the mech would be removed, and models within D6 are removed from play. That would suck. If it was twos, the mech operator struggles to control the gun as it spins out of control. The opponent may choose the target of the shock attack gun this turn. That would suck. And then if it was threes, the exit hole materializes in the wrong place. Resolve this shot upon the nearest unit to the intended target. That's not that bad. Hopefully if there's like a front line. And then fours, the snotling exits the tunnel in an explosive spray of bone and gore. Resolve the attack upon the target, but use the small template. Back then there was templates, so it would be a blast basically. And then fives, in a freak accident, the shock attack gun fires the mech and leaves the snotlings in place. No shot is fired. Immediately place the mech in base contact with the target and treat him as if he had initiated an assault that turn. I wonder if he kept his gun. That would be kind of interesting. Like, does he travel with the gun? That's kind of funny. And then if it was a 5 or a 6, the shock attack gun field explodes, opening a tiny portal into the warp. Only the model under the template hole is hit, but the shot is strength 10. That's pretty good. And then if it's 6s, the tunnel opens a hole into the warp itself, and a raving cloud of sentient demonic ichor gushes out into the material realm. Any model hit by the gun this turn is removed from play. That would be awesome. And then vehicles take an automatic penetrating hit. That was back when that rule was different too. But yeah, now that you guys know that, let's talk, or let me showcase my big mechs. These are the 2 HQs to my army. Usually when I play a warband, one of these 2 is going to be the leader. Usually it's the big mech with the custom force field, but the big mech with the shock attack gun is still pretty awesome just because it looks amazing. The design of the big mech with the shock attack gun, I think, is spot on. You have the you have the grot being sucked into the tube and it's about to get fired. The shock attack gun, I really like the electricity like shooting off as the actual gun swirls and stuff like that. I've seen some kit bash conversions of people actually putting some type of motor so that the shock attack gun actually spins, which is pretty cool. The thing that sucks is on the battlefield, this guy is not as powerful. He has really good range and his weapon is really strong, but in 9th edition, it's not that impressive. The better one is this one. This is the big mech in mega armor with a custom force field. It gives, I think, either a 6-inch or a 9-inch bubble of protection, so you get a 5+ invulnerable save. So if you have a mech gun line, put this guy in the center and it really protects those guys. I made him, I magnetized the custom force field just because sometimes I play him as just a regular mega armored knob. But yeah, these 2 are my big mechs. If you guys have suggestions for any other topics of 40K that you guys would like us to cover, please let me know what they are in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed this little showcase video and the lore on the shock attack gun. As you can see, the orcs have the potential to take over the galaxy, but they don't because they just prefer to fight. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first.